Mysteries of Turkey, Part 3, with Ben from UnchartedX. You are listening to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons, monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, live with UnchartedX, coming to you totally live on YouTube. Yeah, we got Ben joining us. We are here in the 10x10x10 Tangent Cube of Science, where we are surrounded by the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. Ben is in an undisclosed location. Very secret.
It's the same undisclosed location I'm always at.
Yeah, somewhere on the East Coast, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, we are here to talk about our trip to Turkey, to Gobekli Tepe, to Karahan Tepe, to Sogmatar, to many of these ancient sites. If you guys have seen our previous shows, Kyle and I have discussed this several times on previous episodes, but we haven't talked about it with Ben, and of course he was there. With the trip, he left and came back.
Yeah,
very dedicated.
I guess we can tell that story.
Yeah, you should tell that story because that was amazing. I mean, it shows the dedication.
Well, yeah, actually, I'll pan a little bit this way. There it is. Look at that.
Hey.
Actually, got to thank your dad, Kyle. You actually, both you guys, your same dad for the flag. That's cool.
Oh, nice. Stashing him a flag.
He beat you to it. You said you wanted to buy me the flag first, but I think your dad beat me to it.
He did. He got the flag for you.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a fun trip, man. I'd always wanted to get to Turkey. Like it's one of those places. Ever since it started to make the news in a big way with Gobekli Tepe, obviously being the big clanger that lands into, I guess, the standard model of history as we know it. So it was always on my list of like we've got to get there, and took a few years, but we made it happen.
We did.
It was epic. It was a good time. Yeah, thanks for coming with me. I mean, I love traveling with you guys. We do. It seems like the key, a good way to do it. I guess it always seems like a good time with the music and just both of our audiences, I suppose, click quite well together.
Yeah,
right?
they
right.
do.
Yeah,
They do.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I don't know. So for people that don't know, we were in Turkey. April? Most of April, or a couple of weeks in April.
Yep.
We ran a couple of 1 week trips, and yeah, I had an issue when I was there. Unfortunately, it's like 2 1 week tours. We get a couple of days off in the middle, and I'm in the. For people that don't know, I live in the US. I'm Australian. I've been here for 17 years now. So finally, I'd started going through citizenship process. A couple of years back. It's gotten to the point where it's just like you file your paperwork and you just wait. And it's like 15 months.
Yeah.
Until they hear from you, and then when you hear from them, it's like, hey, your interview's in 2 weeks. It's you put your paperwork in, then you have to go do an interview, which is like turn up at USCIS, answer a couple of questions, and then assuming you pass the basic test, all right, go and do your ceremony. So the first time I got a notification from them is like 2022, and it was just and I had 2 weeks out, and I'm like, damn, I'm going to be in Egypt. We were actually on our Egypt trip, so I sent a reschedule notice to them, and you get to reschedule it once. Right, so they're like, okay, and you're basically back to the end of the queue again with your immigration status.
They wanted you to come in November when we were on the big Egypt trip.
It was October.
Oh, it was the October one. Okay.
Yeah, it was the one I was there with Yusuf on his tour.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh well, I travel 2 months out of the year. Call it that. So that's a 1 in 6 chance. I'm like, all right, I've rolled a 1. That's fine.
Yeah.
And about the same schedule, I think, for 2023. But you go to the back of the list, and I think it was like the end of March, literally 2 or 3 days before I had to leave for Turkey, and I get the next note because you wait 6 months, and they're like, well, you're finally at the top again. All right, we want the interview, and they scheduled it for April 12th, and I'm like, snake eyes. I rolled 2 1s, like I hit the 1 out of 6 both times.
Yeah.
I was like, damn it. And it just, then so I called them and I was like, I was like a tour. I'm leading a tour. We're doing this thing in Turkey. Like, yeah, we'll file the application. And sure enough, the first week while we were on tour, I got the letter, and it says, we have denied your request to reschedule your interview. So you need to turn up in Sacramento at 7 a.m. on April 12th. And this isn't the kind of meeting you kind of want to, no show to, I suppose.
Right. Nope.
And it's like, what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, the meeting was 15 minutes. It literally, that's all it is. They ask, it's 10 questions from the basic civics and history for the states, and then they prove you can read and write English. Take your photo, away you go.
Yeah, I can't believe you passed the English test because you definitely speak Australian.
I couldn't believe I passed the handwriting test. You have to write this thing. My handwriting's atrocious. So, but apparently this
fit right in.
Nice lady could read it. I was like, all right, that looks like letters and words. I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, so I had to fly back. It's the second week, so I basically left. One night I flew in. I think I got back to my home at like 10 p.m. Up at 5, made the meeting at 7. I think had to wait around to about 8, and then drove back to San Francisco. I was back on a plane by 1:30 back to Turkey. So that was a hiccup. One-time event, I hope. But
yeah,
holy crap,
like a nightmare.
Racked up some miles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was glad to be there. I was very apologetic to the people that were on the second week of that trip because I'm like, sorry guys, I've got to skip out for what essentially is 3 days, and 80% of that's on a plane.
Yeah, and just so you know, folks, we're all in the hotel in Sanliurfa. The day was over. We're drinking beers, partying. It's in the evening. Ben rolls up, having just done all that flying and traveling, and sits down and drinks beer with us and parties for a little while before he passes out. I was like, damn.
Yeah, I needed something at the end of that. Holy crap. But yeah, it was, it was horrible. But despite that, wonderful trip. I mean, I just, I think we nailed the time of year. Like if you look at satellite pictures of that region, where we went was southeastern Turkey. It's, it's if you want to put it on the old map, northern Mesopotamia, more or less, right? It's the Fertile Crescent kind of area, I guess, or the north end of Mesopotamia on the Euphrates. I think we were a fair way from the Tigris. I don't know, but we did visit the Euphrates at one point. And in ancient times, this was part of the Silk Road area. The city was Sanliurfa. I know a lot of your listeners probably heard a lot of this, but quite close to the Syrian border. In fact, I think at one point on some of the trips we were within 10 miles or so of the Syrian border.
Yeah.
But beautiful. If you look at satellite images of it, it's always this brown color. Like it looks just desolate. But when we were there, because they obviously had a lot of rain, and Sanliurfa in that region is almost like someone didn't want us to go there because they had the earthquakes, which was really like a devastating event. Really knocked around that region, and Sanliurfa's right in the middle. They had some buildings fall down. The guys we were working with had lost homes, and they were out helping in villages, and tremendous casualties, and it was really unfortunate. But then to follow that up as like another punch down to Ponan, I guess they had a flood. They had this tremendous amount of rain, and then it flooded, and a bunch of people died in Sanliurfa. And I remember Ramazan picked me up in the car, and we're driving to the hotel from the airport, and he says, I was kind of half expecting like a meteor strike to hit the city or something, just to round it out. But
volcanoes and meteors are next. Right?
Yeah, volcano, meteors, something like that. It was tough, but it was good to go there and get to see it and sort of inject a bit of commerce, I guess, back into the economy, keep the industry rolling. They're very focused on tourism in that region, but I think due to the rain and due to the time of year, it was green. It was such a beautiful place.
God. Yeah. And we definitely boosted the beer industry in Turkey.
For sure.
Yeah. During Ramadan.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. I mean, Ramadan moves, right? I think it's a lunar thing. The month of fasting for Islam, and we did this trip in the middle of Ramadan. So every place that does sell alcohol, there's plenty of places that do. It's not it's not all of one faith. Like Sanliurfa is the biblical Edessa. It's that whole city. It's a holy city. It's one of the. It's important for Christianity, for Islam, for the Jewish faith.
Yep.
It's the birthplace of Abraham and all of these prophets. It's right, and it's basically biblical central.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but yeah, we eventually found, of course, we're a bunch of Americans, Australians, Europeans that are essentially like, all right, we're on holiday. We need some beer, and
lots of it.
Lots of it. And we found the one place in that whole city that was open and selling it. It's not like a big Bevmo, big store. It's literally like a 7-Eleven that had a fridge full of beer and some wine on the back shelf. And we're like, just all of it, please.
Yeah, please order more of that wine.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
We'll be back tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, we boosted those guys' morale. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was, we've discussed this before, but because of the destruction of the earthquakes and the floods, the museums were closed, which was disappointing. I know that the museums have, what did they tell us? They moved 30 to 40,000
I thought it was
artifacts.
like 60,000.
Yeah, they had to move them out of there, so they've got a lot of artifacts, and these tell like much more of the story of these sites that we're interested in. Gobekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe. There's statues, there's carvings, there's all the grinding tools, probably lots of the flint stuff that they've been finding.
That belongs in a museum.
It does, and the museums were full of water, so. We didn't get to go see that stuff. Hopefully we'll get to go back again and see it, because I do think that's it. When you go to those sites, it's like they're incredibly mysterious and amazing, but you can tell that there's just a lot we're missing. And I think that seeing the artifacts that they found in association with them is going to help fill out the story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's basically a guaranteed we got to go back. I mean, that's just the end. It's essentially they take all the good stuff that's on the sites and they put it in the museum. And from accounts that I'd heard from people, Hugh Newman and guys that go there fairly regularly, like that museum was it's a fantastic museum apparently. And yeah, it was unfortunate we didn't get to see any of that. And to me, it's just like, well, I'm going to have to go back, and once they get it properly cleaned up and put back in place, I'm definitely interested in going back. Plus it's just, it's like sites in Egypt. You go back and it's like you go the first time, you take a bunch of photos and videos, you look around, and then you think about it for a year or whatever. You look at your photos and you research these things, and it's like, well, there's a dozen different aspects of it that I want to go back and look at more closely. Yep. That iterative process of trying to learn more on these sites. Yeah, so for sure. Yeah,
and when you accidentally record every video in 1080p.
Yeah, or like
professional move.
Yeah, like I did last time in Egypt at 720. I did it. It was extremely professional. Yeah, this time I got very high quality video, but
good.
Yeah, I did.
But
Kyle's
got to catch up.
Yeah, Kyle's full of pro moves in Turkey.
That was totally professional. I did it on purpose.
We all pulled some pro moves in Turkey.
Yeah.
One day I didn't have an SD card for my drone. I think I left one of my cameras in the car one day. It's just, I had a bunch of what am I doing?
Yeah. You had an excuse.
Well, I was tired. Yeah. There was definitely some moment of fatigue.
Yep. Yeah.
Just from being in the air.
Okay, there's we can see a couple of questions in the chat. So we weren't saying that Gobekli Tepe was the birthplace of Abraham. We're saying that the area of Sanliurfa, the city in there, that's one of the possible birthplaces of Abraham.
I need to catch up with chat. Thanks for the 10 gifted subs too, dude, and the 5 gifted subs on the UnchartedX memberships on YouTube, dude. You guys are very generous. Thank you.
We also got a donation from Vipercrest. Thank you so much. He says beer and what is that? Thank you, money for great shows. Love from Norway. Appreciate that.
Indeed.
$25.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I will try and keep up with chat as best I can.
We're trying.
And I'll come back, and at the end maybe I'll hit up chat a bit when we're done. But yeah, the biblical Odessa. It's just an interesting site.
Yeah.
It's just from a literally a biblical perspective, like Abraham, who's the Old Testament. Obviously, this is part of the books that are shared between all sort of 3 faiths of the book.
Yeah,
and there's stories in the Quran that relate specifically to, him being there. There's a cave where I think he went in as a baby and came out as a 14-year-old after 6 months or something.
Yep,
that literal cave is there. It's attached to it's like next to a mosque that you go into. We had a look at that.
Yep,
and there's also a story about him being the whole Fish Lake region where we're literally staying right on top of it, where he was supposedly burned, or they tried to burn him. And when the flames touched him, his body, the flames turned to water, and then the wood turned to fish.
Yeah,
and hence this is this lake is like this holy place. But it's a really cool city. I enjoyed it. The food was excellent. It's very different to Egypt. That's what I wasn't sure what to expect, but from that perspective, it was great. And then of course the sites, right? I mean, just getting to see these sites: Karahan Tepe, Sogmatar, Nemrut, Gobekli Tepe. Fantastic.
I made a typical stupid tourist move with the Fish Lake too when we first got there. I wasn't paying enough attention to the fact that it was sacred and the fish were sacred.
Yeah, I remember.
And I saw all the fish and I'm like, hey, looks like we can catch some dinner here. And Ramazan looks at me, he's like, it would be the last thing you do.
It would be the last dinner you ever had.
That's right.
I think is what he said. It'd be the last dinner you ever had. I thought he meant is something wrong with the fish?
Right, yeah, something wrong with the water of the fish. No.
People
they turn back to logs and fire after you eat them.
That's what it is.
Start fly fishing in the sacred lake. I mean, it's teeming with fish too. It's like they're literally used to being fed. You go and pay a couple of the a few bucks, a couple of whatever the local currency's called, I can't remember. And then, you just throw these fish just are accustomed to being fed.
Turkish lira.
It's a big pond.
Yeah.
Turkish lira.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pay a tiny bit amount and they give you a little dish of fish food and you go and like people are feeding them and they're just, they're enormous and there's thousands and thousands of them. It's really cool. Yeah.
This guy's saying was the birthplace of Abraham. Well, Abraham had a lot to do with the biblical Edessa, I guess. I don't know if was Edessa or had a relationship, but there's a lot going on with Abraham.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's multiple different, it's one of the places he's associated with. They say he was born there, but there are other places where he, it's the same thing.
Moses' father-in-law. There's all sorts of different stories.
Yeah.
And it's spread across the 3 different phases. It was interesting because we got a bit of background on these places. Obviously, they're interested kind of looking at the architecture, the stonework, which we'll get into and take a closer look at. But the biblical aspect of it was interesting, just from a historical perspective. Then, of course, it's, it turns out that area goes back way, way further. And
absolutely.
I mean, I looked it up. It says the cave where the prophet Abraham is believed to have been born in Sanliurfa. Turkey is almost famous. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it literally means holy city. It's I think that's something like that. It was like a translation of the name.
He spent about 10 years of his life as in protection against the cruel king Nimrod, who ordered all newborn children killed upon learning of Abraham's coming birth.
Yeah, Nimrod. It's
Nimrut.
Yeah.
Nemrut. Yeah. Well, Nemrut. So we'll get to Nemrut. But
yeah, it was cool because Ramazan told us that Nemrut is what the people called any king who was a bad king. Yeah. So Nimrod, the biblical Nimrod, is a Nemrut. That is a title, not a name. Yeah.
Is that not also the dedication? Like the Sanliurfa castle was dedicated to that name as well. I seem to recall that on the.
Yeah, maybe it was.
A Nimrut or Nimrod name for the castle. There's this giant 2,000-year-old castle that's built on top of like a 10, 12,000-year-old mound site.
Yes, that's right.
And there's literally like a Mesolithic or Neolithic mound with caves and caverns that's on this hill in this city, and then they built a giant big castle around it 2,000 years ago, and it's been renovated and attacked. There's a huge moat around it. It's a pretty cool castle. Again, we couldn't get in.
You have any pictures?
Get into it.
You have any pictures?
I can pull up some pictures.
Castle area, yeah, because that would be cool.
Let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
Let me just share my screen.
The castle was amazing, right in the middle, like right in downtown Sanliurfa, and it just kind of dominates the area.
I didn't prepare this, but I know we can. We've got Sanliurfa Castle, Fish Lake.
Oh, man.
I mean, this was
this guy's organized. Look at this.
Early morning. You guys can see this, all right?
Yes, we see it.
Let me go.
We're impressed with your organization too.
Oh yeah, well, you'll figure it out. You start collecting a lot of media, you need to do something. It's crazy.
What, you don't just throw them all in the same folder without renaming anything?
That's the problem. But let me move you guys over. Let me see. Okay, we'll just flip through some of these. But they had there's the bazaar. It's literally it's just a cool experience being in the city because there's this giant bazaar that is this labyrinthian thing that we walk through, and it's just full of spice shops, food shops, metal workers, tin workers.
Yeah, it's like blacksmiths doing work on anvils.
Literally, forgers running, guys are hammering on stuff. Cool. There's woodworkers, knife shops. I mean, just all sorts of stuff all throughout this, and you can get lost in here. We figured out the key eventually. It's like I think uphill is in and then downhill is out. If you follow the drain,
right,
kind of you can eventually find your way out. But it's truly this labyrinth that we see in there. But this is like the central mosque area. That the cave we talked about is just over here to the left.
That's right.
There's some earthquake damage on these minarets. That's one of the things we noticed, that they were actually in the process of fixing some of these. But there's a bunch of these minarets in these places that had been damaged during the earthquake. And then this is essentially the whole Fish Lake region. Just the area is just beautiful. It's like a park with cats and just all sorts of he's
Kitty Park for sure. There's the fish.
Kitty Park. There's the fish in the Fish Lake. This is the castle up on the hill. You can see it okay here. Let me
Fish Lake and Cat Garden.
Yes.
Fish Lake, Cat Garden. That's cafe down the bottom here with a Turkish coffee. It's a pleasant place to visit. I'd recommend it. It's a good experience. The food's excellent. As a tourist spot, it is. guys, thank you so much for the super chats.
And this
Went
is
to Sanliurfa last year, blew your mind, excellent. And Vipercrest for the NOK 500, dude. Thank you so much.
cool. Vipercrest donated to both of us. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
Nice,
that.
yes. Yeah, let me show you
Those
some
are the
better
pillars
pictures.
of what did they say those were? That's also those pillars are associated with legends.
These two,
Yeah.
they look almost Roman to me. They look
do.
Corinthian or something.
Yeah, but when we were walking around there, Ramazan and they were telling us the story of being, what was he? He was thrown up to the pillars. I can't remember exactly what the myth was, but yeah, those are.
I think I heard that story. Yeah, but this, I mean, the tops of them remind me a lot of the Roman, Roman tops.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell they're
of-
bricks. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the view. This is some nice pictures. So this is the view up on the castle hill, sort of looking back at the city.
yeah,
In fact, there's you can see the I think this was, I don't know if this was the museum or this might have been something, but sort of on the right here, there's these are all these necropolis, these burials from people for the last couple thousand years, caves and things. And as we walk up and around the castle, it's got this giant moat that's been excavated out of it, and this is kind of the typical stone that makes up this entire region, this limestone bedrock that's just everywhere. And
I got a
there's
problem
rust.
with that guy in that photo.
You got a problem with him?
Yeah. He's got the Guinness Book of World Records for the most Ivans that ever got together. And the Kyles just tried it and they lost.
that's right. Ivan
His name is
still
Ivan.
stands supreme.
They do. Dang it.
Good friend of mine. That is Ivan.
Yeah, he is cool.
But yeah, there's Russ standing next to like this castle, which is it's impressive work. I mean, again, 2,000 years old, built on top of a Neolithic mound that's been here forever. And as we'll see as we go around the corner, something that I think we both noticed, just driving around this type of landscape, like a lot of it's bare rock with a bit of grass maybe, but it's just caves everywhere, like
Yes.
man-made caves.
Yes.
Absolutely everywhere.
Rock cut holes in the hills. And what I'm looking at right
Unbelievable.
there, I'm actually, I went over there because those blocks that are sticking out are much older than the ones that are around it. Like you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
So like this, just like so many other ancient sites, this castle has been built and rebuilt. And like Ben said, it's been found now. They're doing archaeology on the inside. It's been found now to be sitting on a mound site that's very old. So those blocks are older than the ones next to it. They're much more ancient. So they would rebuild it and reuse what they could.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that theme of renovation. Every time you look at these sites, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, it's and Ramazan did a good job of explaining that because it becomes pretty clear on some of these sites too. It's like some of it literally start as like Neolithic caves and rock cut caverns, and then people build a structure on top of that, and they start to use it. Either they use it as a basement, or then it's just things build up over time, and maybe that becomes a center, and then it becomes this bigger thing, like maybe a castle or something, because it's got commanding views of the area or whatever the reason for it is. But it's this renovation and reuse. I love the theme because I personally think this happens in Egypt and certainly South America, Peru, with the Inca reusing stuff. And this is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
These blocks here are clearly older.
Yeah.
And then
Much
they've
more
been
weathered. They're
incorporated.
not dressed the same.
Yep, different stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got lichen growing on them.
Yes.
And everything.
Yeah, it has that patina, which we'll see at Karahan
Yeah.
Tepe. This is that exposed patina of the top of the blocks.
These remind me of the blocks that we saw at Sogmatar. Some of the temples are made of them, which could be up to 6,000 years old. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just skip through a few of these to get round to the back here. But this giant moat too. So the moat's bigger than it appears in this
Yeah.
in this image.
What an undertaking to dig that into the stone. Yeah.
straight out of the stone.
Yeah.
And you kind of go around to the high side on the back here, and then this is the necropolis. This is where these are literally burials for, they're thousands of years old.
Yep.
And there's still there's literally like an Indiana Jones in one of them, like a wheeled stone door, or it's
that's
maybe
right.
biblical kind of stone door that you'd roll into place.
Yep.
And there's boxes cut into the rock in this area. We did get in and have a look at some of this stuff.
That was really interesting to see those stone doors because you realize there's no way to get that stone out.
Of the socket.
Yeah.
They actually cut it out of the doorway
And then
and formed it into the door while it's in its socket. Like you can't actually get it out of there.
Yeah.
I'm glad you figured that out, because I was looking at it going, I don't know how they got this in here, because you can't get it out. You just this is a one-shot deal. Don't screw it up, Johnson, kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just looking at this is at the end of the moat around the castle. We'll move on from the city here in a minute to Gobekli Tepe. But yeah, it's a giant moat, and this, whatever this staunch, it might have originally held like a bridge or something across here.
Yep.
But what I liked about this next shot is like, this is the city. You're looking across at the next hillside, and this is the sort of stuff you see everywhere. It's just like these rock cut.
Yep.
Struck like caves.
And
I mean, they're not natural.
Right, and that's definitely quarry cutting above it. You can see that they're taking blocks out of there. Yeah. So
yeah. And it's over here in the city, and you see, we saw it to the left and to the right, and you just know that there's people here with these basically Neolithic basements on the houses they're sitting. The wine cellars have been there for like 10 or 12,000 years, if not more. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
you just wonder if there's any of them that are similar to, in Anatolia, Cappadocia, where somebody's going to be messing around in their basement and find an entrance to where it's basically the entire hill has been hollowed out at some point in the past. There's a daring
Who knows?
Under there. Yeah.
Could be. It seems like there was a lot going on to get underground. I mean, this is the semi-subterranean sites, and this is the same thing at Karahan Tepe, which, I mean, we'll look at some pictures of that soon here too. But that was one of the theories that I think puts a real a knife in the theory that it was hunter-gatherers, because Karahan Tepe in particular, they think they've identified what they would call permanent dwellings. Mm-hmm. And that's very much a symbol of civilization.
Yep.
I mean, I think the whole concept of this, we'll get to it with the hunter-gatherer thing, but I think it's kind of ridiculous anyway. But the Karahan, which is older than Gobekli Tepe, they found what they would call semi-subterranean structures, where it's like it's a pit, or you dug down in the ground and then you create a roof or something like that, but the walls are essentially made of bedrock.
Yeah.
Or stone.
That's right. And you're right that the whole concept of permanent dwellings kind of just completely removes the concept of hunter-gatherers. They're not nomadic hunter-gatherers anymore. If they've got permanent dwellings, they're doing agriculture.
Right.
They're building structures. They're doing stonework.
Yeah, maybe we talk. I'd love to expand on that a little bit. I mean, I'll just throw up an image of the area around Gobekli Tepe, and people can see kind of what it looks like. You can see the structure over the site when you visit it today. But there's actually, like, this is worked bedrock here, and I'll show some pictures of that too. But you see just how beautiful it is, like at this time of year with the.
Who is that out there?
Is
that Christian?
That is Christian. Yes, yeah. I don't think he's peeing, but it's definitely Christian walking.
he's definitely where he's not supposed to be.
Yes,
yeah, that's pretty normal.
Yeah,
Christian.
It's pretty standard.
Yeah, we went to Karahan Tepe, and they said, don't, whatever you do, like, this is active archaeological site, don't jump down into the main sort of area. And if he's just down in there, like, boink. Christian, get out of there. No, come on, that'd be great. But I was thinking about this earlier. It's, and I don't know if this came. I mean, I think it came up on the Joe Rogan podcast with Michael Shermer, just for reference.
And you've been to Giza though.
No, I've never been to Giza.
Oh dear! Right, that's the people remember. I love that quote. Oh dear! Oh dear on the end. But it's, that was one of the discussions that came up, and it's still true to this point. I think to this day, if you go and look on Wikipedia as the official source that it is for all things ancient history, it still describes Gobekli Tepe as being created by hunter-gatherers. I mean, that's been the excuse that's been used to so we don't have to shift back the date of civilization.
Right.
Like, for the last, I don't know, 100, 150 years, our story of civilization really hasn't changed much, despite all of the new discoveries and, in whatever, like catastrophism, Younger Dryas, extension of the human timeline, genetics, all these things that should be affecting that picture of history. It really hasn't changed much. We still go like 6,000 years ago, we started civilization with the, Sumerians or whatever, the Babylonians and Egypt, and then Greece and Rome and China and all that stuff. But, I think you can challenge that just on the basis of the size of the work and the actual techniques of the work that you see at Gobekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Not the same sophistication as Egypt, but still you're talking like large monoliths, like 20, 30 tons,
Yep.
high relief carvings, all that sort of stuff. I think that justifies needing civilization and specialization on its own. But what's happened in the last decade or so is that not only have they dated this stuff as being really old, but now they found Karahan Tepe after that. And they thought that this was like a one-off initially. Gobekli Tepe, and then they found Karahan Tepe, and in recent years they found 40 more sites.
See, this is wild to me because
40.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that they thought this was a one-off. Because when you realize that the tops
They
of these
wanted it to
hills
be a one-off.
should not be covered in grass, and then you look on Google Earth. I know they didn't have this, maybe back when they first found this site, but when you look on Google Earth, you can see that there are other tops of hills that are completely covered in grass, and you're like, okay, there's a lot of dirt up there.
Yeah. I think that's what it is that satellite surveys have.
That's probably what it is then.
Because you're right. Like when the site was beginning to be worked on in the 1990s, they didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
The same tools. I mean, they could have gotten satellite imagery, but they didn't have Google Earth yet, I don't think, in the 90s. So.
No, it would have. No, I don't think so. Nothing like that. I mean, that was I was in finishing high school in the mid 90s.
But flying over it in a plane.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have been able to see like multiple places that would be potential sites.
And that's what we saw too. Is you can see like in the background here, you do see there's not much soil and topsoil on these hills. It's a lot of this, and as you're driving around, it's just limestone with a bit of grass on it.
Yep.
And then you would find the odd hill here and there that seems to have a bunch of soil on it, and that certainly seems to be where they're finding all these sites.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole history of this site, Gobekli Tepe, I mean, I think it was originally discovered as like, well, this is an old site in like the 50s, and they dismissed it as saying, well, it's not very old and it's not very special.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until the 90s when they came back and they like started to look a bit more closely at it, and then eventually did some carbon dating, that they went, holy crap, okay, this is actually very old and very special.
Yeah, the stonework, and they made that judgment based on the quality of the stonework. They saw the quality of the stonework and decided it must be much more recent, like an Ottoman cemetery or something.
Yeah.
So
because it's a higher degree of stonework.
Right. Yeah. Much more than they would expect for something that's Neolithic or, older. So
yeah. So you mean at the photos and the people watching, you can see here, this is like they've built this enclosure over the top of it and the bridge around it. And I mean, I've heard a lot of people complain about it. I'm okay with it. I don't think this site would last because they have like 1 million people visit this a year.
You're
or
right.
something
We're
now.
in favor of it now as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does a decent job. It lets in a lot of light. You're keeping the elements off the site when it rains. I mean, it'd be a messy, muddy place if this was open to the rain.
Yeah.
With all the dirt that's in here. And you get a good view of it. I think it's fine. I mean, it would have been great to obviously get down in there, and we tried, but it's like this was, out of all the places that were closed, this was one place that they kind of kept open. There were other tourists here, and we got some nice access to other sites.
Yes.
I mean, Karahan Tepe in general is closed. Like it's closed to the public. And luckily we, our connections and the people that invited, I mean, I got contacted by the tourism ministry. So we had the tourism minister for the regional, a guy from the tourism department in the government was our guide.
Yeah.
And he could make a phone call and get us into places, which was great. And say, these guys want to fly the drone, and let them do it.
Yeah. Our brother, Ramazan.
Our brother Ramazan. Yeah, he was awesome.
Yes.
Great guy. But, you can see this site, and you can see this part of it was all underground. In fact, I probably can skip through it and get to there was like literally one corner of one T-pillar that was sticking up, a broken part of a T-pillar that was sticking up on out of the ground. And the way they've discovered these sites is generally like farmers will come along and they're rock picking or whatever because they want to make a field out of the place. And they try and pull the rock out, and they figure out they can't. This is a much bigger rock. And you start to dig down from there. Like, this is actually quite, and then you start to see, well, this has been worked. It's actually been made. You can see the markings and the shape of it. It's not a natural shape. And it's just this like the tiniest fraction of the site's poking up out of the ground. And from there they start to excavate and they reveal what's now known as these enclosures, B and D and C in this main pit area. And I think it's, what do they say? This is 5% of the whole site. Like, this excavation is about 5% of what Gobekli Tepe actually is.
Yeah,
size.
I think I read, what did they say, at least 15 more enclosures just there.
20.
Yeah.
20.
Under the ground still. Yeah.
Yep. And Karahan is 5 times as big as Gobekli Tepe.
Right. Karahan is enormous. Yeah.
And older.
Right.
It's like they think there's 1,000 T-pillars at Karahan.
Oh my God.
So yeah, this is the famous enclosure. And there's a lot, it was so fascinating seeing this. A couple things that I took away from it, and you guys probably have comments. I originally thought, like, what did they do at the bottom here? Did they pour concrete or something to try and cement this in? That's what I thought initially. I'm like, what? It's not. It's worked bedrock. Like these enclosures are actually the bedrock's cut down and then lapped flat. Like,
yeah, I'm totally guilty. When I first saw that pedestal around the pillar in enclosure C, I was like, that's fake.
Yep.
That the archaeologist did that.
Photoshopped.
Photoshopped, made it in concrete and
Yeah,
painted
that's what I was saying. I was like, they built that to support the pillar, and then I was like, wait a minute, no,
There are birds on it.
that's actually bedrock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do in Egypt. I mean, the Sphinx and all the repairs, and there's a lot of people that, and the mortuary temple at the top of the causeway, the middle pyramid. I mean, there's so many repairs that have happened in there, and then they paint it. They try and give it a patina to match the age, and then there's a lot of people I've seen videos like, this is geopolymer. I'm like, you're actually correct.
Yeah.
For once, it is. It's concrete, but it's modern.
Right.
But this isn't. This is literally how they shaped this. And you see the same thing at Karahan, like. And it kind of gets me to one of the central bits of feedback. And maybe you've shared it, maybe you've talked about it. I didn't watch all of your podcasts before.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. Hey, man, I'm covered in poison oak at the moment. I've been outside.
That's a legit excuse.
All right, yeah, we'll let you off.
You don't want to see my hands and arms. It's horrible. Just
At least it's not malaria.
I've got malaria. I'd almost rather have malaria. No, I don't want to say that. Malaria is
Don't say it, bro.
yeah, malaria is.
Last time it almost killed you. Let's just keep it. Yeah.
It really did.
Stay with the poison oak.
But it's there's lots to observe, I think, about the site. But here's what I think. And I'd like to hear your opinion on it. You've probably talked about it already, but it's almost like this seems, as with other sites, there's like 2 levels of building going on here, right? There's the central, there's the monolith, like the megalithic stuff, the big pieces that are done really well, and they have the high relief carvings on them. They're kind of smoothed, and then you have the others, all these walls, like all of this detritus, the walls, the small stones that are just stacked together. I mean, they're good solid walls, I'm sure, but there's nothing precise or techno. I mean,
and
there's nothing.
And the rocks aren't cut. They're basically rough cobbles, right? They're not even really. It's not even really masonry. It's stacked raw rock walls. But yeah, we have discussed it, and there's some stuff in the papers too about this, right?
It's 100% 2 phases of building, in my opinion.
Okay, that's my takeaway from it too. Quick note, Craig. Morning. Thank you so much for the $10. And the kind words, mate. Thank you so much in the chats.
We have some donations too. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I'm just, that was my takeaway as well, just like you said. And a main point about that is that the rock walls go around the sides of the pillars and cover up carvings. I mean, it's clearly a second phase of building.
I mean, it's like they're supporting the pillars. It's almost as if they found them. Well, they were reconstructing this, because look, even this pillar here on the right, it's broken.
Yeah, and there's another one where you can see it in the top left corner there, where it's the archaeologists have stood it up and it's being propped up with a wooden rod. You had it more central in a picture, all the way on the top left of your photo. There's a T pillar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go back. No, you were on it.
Over here,
looking at the main enclosure.
Left. The one before?
Yeah, you can keep going, because you had it one picture where it was in the center, right there.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that one's broken, and it's sitting on top of another piece of a T pillar, and then
that's horizontal.
Yeah, it's laying and there's old rock wall. There's multiple places like this where it's clearly the old rock wall construction that has pieces of T pillar in it, and they build the rock wall up so far and then stand the piece of T pillar up. It's like they're reconstructing the site or repairing the site.
Yeah, and there's a big block here just to the right of that. Like you said, like, is this what you're talking about? Like, there's a piece in the wall that seems to be from
Yeah.
probably a T-pillar.
There's
like to the
multiple
right.
examples of this
Yeah.
where there's
There is,
chunks
yeah.
of T-pillar that are standing vertically and broken, and then they've got rocks stacked up, and then they have the top of the T-pillar stacked up on that. There's just all these different. It's clearly a reconstruction phase.
Can you turn you up a little bit, if you guys, maybe for me, if
Yeah,
you
sure.
can
Yep.
crank you guys up just like a dog biscuit or two.
Yes, I can.
How's
Is that
that?
better?
Okay, that's better. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the dating though, the rock walls are dated at 12,000 years ago. That's the most solid date they have.
And that's what that's where I wanted to go with this, which was that the dating that they give for this site is based on material they found in the rock walls.
The
yeah?
mortar at
There's
the
a whole-
bottom of the rock walls. Yeah.
That's simplified, but
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of different dates. They dated it archaeologically. In other words, contextual dating or relative dating. That was the first type of dating.
Right.
And that was from the arrowheads and the worked flint points that they found as they dug down.
Yeah. PP&A, pre-pottery Neolithic.
Yeah, PP&A and PP&B. There you go. There's
Yeah.
one. These are well-known artifact types from dozens of other sites all throughout the Levant. So these people are hunter-gatherers, and they are well-known in terms of the types of lithics they create.
Right.
And so at the oldest layers, the very, very bottom of the materials that they're excavating out of these enclosures, they're finding the PP&A lithics, which to them clearly date it at 12,000 plus years ago. And that's what they call that. That's archaeological dating, because they're
Yep,
just saying
the
these,
lithics.
these are the same as all these other sites.
Yeah.
Right.
Same style, same. Yeah.
I think this is also what led them to believe that these were hunter-gatherers,
yeah.
Right.
because clearly those hunter-gatherers were occupying the site for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. It's who knows how long it was there. Like, this is a convenient place to prop up a piece of wood on top of these T-pillars and make some shelter, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
build
that's a
some rough
possibility, right?
build some rough walls around them and make an interior. Yeah. I mean, like, who knows what they did. But yes,
Yeah.
their lithics are at the bottom of the materials that fill the enclosures.
Okay. All right.
Plus,
There's a
that's how
T-pillar lane in the
that's-
side there. That's pretty
Plus
cool.
lots of, tools that are associated with beginnings of agriculture, lots of grinding tools. They found over 7,000 grinding tools in the enclosures that were excavated at Gobekli Tepe. And that is,
Jesus.
that's considered to be extremely excessive in terms of like number of tools by the archaeologists. They're just like, yeah, this is a huge number for this size of a site, for the number of people you would expect to be using this site if there were people living here, which at
Grind
the
up
time
weed or whatever.
yeah, so 7,000, over 7,000 grinding tools are like, what are they doing? So they've come up with this idea of ritualized work feasts where, once or twice a year, they would bring an enormous amount of food, hunt a ton of animals, cook a ton of stuff, and then everybody would drag T-pillars around to stand them up. Like,
They do it all at the same time. Like they kind of mix up the idea of, well, they were also building the site when they were doing these feasts. Like that
Yeah.
must be the explanation
Yeah.
for how they built it versus, I mean, it seems just as possible that maybe the site was here
yeah.
and it was a sacred site, which is like, it's just, to me, it's like, well, if you were a hunter-gatherer and you see a giant pyramid in a desert, you might start to look at it and think it's pretty impressive, right? This is another flavor of that type of thing. Like, holy crap, we see this site, or maybe it's here and we see parts of it that are depicting the animals that are running around, and I don't know. It would pretty quickly be translated as some sort of sacred place that maybe you do establish rituals about. I think there's a lot of potential explanations for it.
Yeah, look at that that pillar in the back there. You can
This one
see
was
that
bent
there's
over.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and
right.
yeah.
there's a carving on the side of it. It looks like the fox head is sticking out a little bit. The one on the one all the way in the back on the right,
All the way
but
in
it's
the back.
covered by the rock wall.
The one on the upper right of the
head over.
picture,
Here he
yeah.
is. Yeah, okay. On my screen, your heads are over the top of it. Yeah, you're right. And you see this everywhere. This is what I was going to say too. Yeah, the rock walls are built around the carving. They obviously came later. We don't know how much later, but yeah they're built to support the pillars, or just to. I mean, once they buried the site, like it's It's up there, yeah. And as you guys said, it's like they go with the lithic dating. Then there's the carbon dating based on the mortar that's in the bottom layers of the fill on the walls.
Yeah.
And that's and we're even at that point we're at like 12,000 years old.
Yeah, those dates are contemporary with each other. So it's like, okay, somebody at the time of these hunter-gatherers that were making those lithics were also building these rock walls supporting these T-pillars. What other reason would you do it than to try to restore the site? And one of the things that would happen is if, because it is on a hillside and there was probably material above it, that every time it rained, all this material would wash down in there. And I got to give some credit to Ed Food Text You Later.
Yep.
Ed Food Text You Later?
Yeah. We were having a very expensive conversation for him.
He's trying to continue it right now.
I know, I saw. But he was pointing out that someone had talked about these the rock walls being retaining walls essentially, and like they started out really wide, like this big circular retaining wall around the enclosure, and then at some point in the past, that wall would be breached and material would fall down into the site, and then they would clean it up and build another retaining wall. Then it would step down and get a little bit smaller. And this may have happened multiple times. So you would have successive rings of these rock walls. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So maybe the furthest walls out were the first ones built, and then they eventually failed. And so they came in and built another shelf on the inside of that.
What was the joke you told about retaining walls? There's only two kinds of retaining walls.
Yeah, there's two kinds of retaining walls: those that have failed and those that are about to.
That are about to. Yeah.
That was
It's like people. It's like motorcycle riders, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's those guys. There's those people that have crashed and those people that are going to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, you can see there's a giant slab laying on its side between these pillars. There's multiple. There's a T pillar in the back, but if you look through the two central pillars, there's one laying inside the rock walls on its side. It's underneath right there.
Yeah.
And it's got a rock wall stacked on it.
And those look more.
It does.
Yeah, and those look more similar to the ones we see at Karahan. They're. Yeah.
And I was going to say too, when we get to Karahan, there's tremendous, the age and the erosion on some of the T-pillars that have fallen over, the really big ones that are like just crumbled. Who knows how long they've been sort of fallen down.
Yeah.
But it's not, you one of the impressions you get is obviously this is the central and a lot of the famous, hands wrapping around the waist of the T-pillars. These are quite thin, but there are other pillars in here that are fat. You can sort of see some in the background that have lost their tops. They've been broken.
Enclosure C,
Enclosure C.
Enclosure C. There's some really big work here. And in fact, one of the stories, Ramazan had found, I think before not even many of the authorities knew about it, but in a nearby sort of wooded area, they'd found a T-pillar in a quarry that was on a hillside nearby Gobekli Tepe. And I think he tried to go and see if we could actually try and access it and sort of rip the exhaust off his car trying to do it.
Yep.
And had to get his car repaired because he tried to do a bit off-roading with a regular road car and damaged it. But I've seen pictures of it. But yeah, and some of these are massive. The T-pillar in the quarry at Karahan's must be 20 to 30 tons. These are significant blocks of stone, and they're not all thin like this. Some of them are significant.
Yeah, so there's a couple other observations here. The two surrounding pillars on the right side, you can't tell if they are actually socketed into the bedrock because they're covered by the rock walls.
Yeah,
right. And they're built into the rock walls, are like covering them.
Yeah, there's a look at the lip of the bedrock.
Yeah,
right. You can see that the bedrock goes up like there's a lip there on the right side. And those two pillars are standing on it, but they might be slotted in. And then the other one next to them that has the snakes on it is standing on top of a rock wall.
Yeah.
Or it's built into, or the rock wall's been built up around it.
It could have been.
I don't know if it's this one here is like a ruined one that's like the rock wall's built underneath it, but this one here looks like it could have just been built up around it. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know.
That was definitely the feeling I got with this place was that it seems like, let me just start from the scratch. We'll skip through a couple. but it seemed like there was a lot more going on here. And of course, you've got Martin Sweatman's work that I think is really interesting, an interesting take on all of this as being this observatory or celestial record of events that relates to constellations. And you have features like this, that these holes that we see in different sites, and maybe these were sight lines and orientations and who knows what, and whether or not these blocks have been moved. But
I sure would like to know what that is carved around that hole too. It's a little too.
It's almost like hands and arms.
It does look like arms, but
too.
I don't know. There's a bunch of them. It's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of quick questions. Was there any damage to the Tepe sites from the earthquake? Not really. They withstood it quite well. And if the carvings of the megaliths corresponded to a date, then the two construction parts would indicate a complete cycle before 12K years ago, right? So this is one of the comments that I had when we were talking about it when we were on the trip, was that, if you go with like Martin Sweatman's idea of it recording dates and celestial cycles, then it not necessarily 100%, but it almost necessitates like a cycle's worth of observation. I don't know. We haven't observed the sky for that long when we figured it out mathematically, but there's a lot going on when you're observing precessions of the equinoxes and that cycle. So, it's not a short. In either case, it's not a short period of time observing the sky to notice the motion.
You would at least probably need a couple of generations of people who are keeping track and talking to each other, like passing knowledge down before maybe the third generation of astronomers would say, okay, we're confirming that this star is definitely moving relative to the equinoxes or whatever, and then they would start paying attention.
Yeah,
and then maybe they could extrapolate and come up with a rough idea of how long that cycle would take, but it would not be a short. You can't just watch the sky for a couple of weeks and figure it out.
No. For people that don't know, I mean, it's like this. We're talking about a motion of the heavens that if you stick your thumb up on the horizon, it moves about a thumb width in over 72 years in terms of what constellation the sun is rising under on the solstice, things like that. Like it's not a. Of course, that screws up my focus, but it's. Yeah, it's it does take a long period of observation. Is there any information about the soil strata around the site? Have they analyzed any cores in the area?
There's a lot.
I don't know.
There's a lot of information about the soil strata, but it's, I mean, all of the soil on top of this hill is man-made.
Man-made soil. Yeah.
I mean, midden. Obviously not the soil itself, but the pile is midden. It's a trash heap.
Yeah.
So it's full of
piled in.
Yeah, it's just full of detritus, broken rocks, shattered pieces of flint, bones.
Yeah.
And lots of studies have been done on it. It's really hard to carbon date any of the bones they found in there because of the collagen or some other weird issue that is because of the leaching of the minerals in the soil are either leaching out of the bones or going into them, and it just kind of messes everything up.
Yeah.
The stratigraphy is all messed up. And the thing that Ed Fu texted you later was trying to get to, I think, is ultimately led me down this rabbit hole of more research, was that now they're starting to think that the reason why they thought that it was like people burying the site because the stratigraphy was like almost inverted in some cases. Like the older layers were at the top and the younger layers were at the bottom, as though if you dug a hole into a midden that has this perfect stratigraphy going from recent to old, and you were throwing that into a pit, then the layers would be inverted in that pit.
Yeah.
That's why that's one of the pieces of evidence that they had that this place was buried on purpose.
Because it was inverted stratigraphy.
Yeah. They were thinking that people were chunking dirt in there, but they're now thinking that these were collapses.
There's also some interesting stuff with the phytoliths, which are little tiny silicate crystals that kind of build up inside of plant structure, and they can actually. So these are like a micro proxy, and so they've done a lot of tests looking at the phytoliths that are contained within the midden soil that are in the enclosures, and they've discovered that there's so much of it that this is part of the reason why they're sure that they were doing some kind of agriculture, because not only are there a ton of these things indicating that people were using plants here in enormous amounts, but it's also only the phytoliths you find in the middles and tops of plants, right?
Okay.
So they were harvesting plant material and bringing it to the site. And then, of course, there's also the 7,000 plus grinding stones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were making a lot of
making grains, foods, cereals.
Which is interesting when you think about, forewarning of a cataclysm or something. There's because they actually did these tests where they're like, oh, okay, we're going to take a grinding stone, just like one of the ones we find at Gobekli Tepe, and we'll have somebody grind grains in it for 8 hours and see how much they
make
produce.
Some cereal, Johnts. See how long it takes.
And they made enough for one guy could make enough for 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And so when they do the calculation of how many there were and how much grain they're making, they're making way too much food.
Way too much food, yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah. And that is interesting from the perspective of, they know this comet is in the sky or whatever.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Real quick, David, thank you so much. Thanks for the donation. Ed Fu text you later. So we did get the email, and I also looked up Lee Clare and found some of his papers as well. So I appreciate that. You've helped us out for sure on that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And then PC gave $20. What's the question here? Love the show. Believe it or not, I've seen all of them. My question is, do you think we will ever have DNA from any of these sites that will allow us to trace ancestry? Keep up the good work.
I know they've found, well, I don't know. They can't even get carbon dates, but I don't know that they're looking for DNA from animal bones. But they have found skulls, right? I read some paper that they think there's a skull cult.
Oh yeah,
and so they had human skulls, and they were sort of notching them and wrapping them in twine or something and hanging them. So they had all these hanging skulls. I just don't think these are the people that built the site.
Right.
This is.
The occupiers.
I mean, this is classic. You find an ancient megalithic site, you hang skulls, you sacrifice people, right?
Write your name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scratch your name onto it. You made it.
Yeah, that's right.
You made it, bro.
I can understand.
Timmy was here on the skyscraper, right? It's this was Timmy's skyscraper. Timmy made it.
Yeah. I can understand the confusion and the sort of development of these ideas that the archaeologists had based on what they were dealing with, because this is uncharted territory for them, and also just the massive amounts of bones and everything to determine okay, a bunch of people were coming here and feasting.
Yep.
Right. Then the inverted stratigraphy and what looks like giant heaps of material that suddenly appear inside an enclosure. They're like, what? And it's full of all these bones. So they were having a giant feast, and then suddenly all this material appears. So they're like, maybe they threw it in there. So they come up with this idea. They're like, okay, they finished with this one enclosure, so they start burying it while they're feasting, and they're digging another one. They're digging through the layers to start building another enclosure. This is how they develop the narrative.
Yeah.
There's recent work that's looking at the overall geometry of all of the enclosures that have been excavated, and they're starting to compare them and say, there's no way these were separate buildings.
That's right.
Because they're too precisely connected in equilateral triangles from the central pillars of one to the next to the next.
I've seen that.
Yeah, there's
some really cool really cool studies showing the geometry of the enclosures relative to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Accuracy to, I mean, this is not super accurate, but accurate to within 20 centimeters of equilateral triangle centers of the enclosures. And then they also did a bunch of associative studies with all the symbolism and everything, and they're basically saying there was an idea that because the work is so similar, that earlier the archaeological idea was that there must have been a group of specialists who were basically being hired by different groups of people to make different enclosures for different groups. And these guys are like, no, this kind of rules this out, because not only does the geometry show that all these sites had to be planned out, which is this would be another first. If you're talking about Neolithic or very ancient people, these guys are saying they had to have a blueprint, basically, and a scalable blueprint, because they had to work out the math on paper or on the ground or whatever, in the sand, however they drew it out. They had to work out the math and the relationships between the sites and the centers of the sites before they built it, and they had to do it to scale so that they could scale it up. So they must have had also some kind of measurement system that they could scale.
So I'm hoping we'll find something related to the megalithic yard.
Have you read Civilization 1?
Not yet. I will though. What's that?
Well, you've probably read Who Built the Moon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So he talks about the megalithic system of measurement. There's a chapter in there talking about what they discovered with Civilization 1. And it's this mathematical relationship between all of these megalithic stone circle sites all over the British Isles and that part of the world, and it kept coming back to this mathematical system. Funnily enough, if you've watched some of the Vase videos, there's a mathematics. It seems to be math involved, and it's just like all of this stuff points at civilization and speciality to me. Like there's this, it becomes a long draw of a bow to try and say, well, this was just hunter gatherers entertaining themselves on the feast weekend, and slapping it together because that's what they wanted to do. It's just, and I look at this and we've been going for like an hour and 15 already. Maybe we can
time flies in the cube.
Yeah.
Time flies, it does indeed. But it's just like the fact that you have Gobekli Tepe, you then have Karahan Tepe. Now and Karahan Tepe is 5 times bigger than Gobekli Tepe. Yeah. And now there's 40 more sites.
Maybe like as much as 80. We got both numbers. Like they were like 40, possibly as much as 80.
Possibly 80.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So there's this, it's another chapter of human civilization that we know just nothing about now. Like,
and for sure, this narrative that's been started is not going to remain. I mean, it's falling apart. It's the tip of the T-pillar. Bro.
Yeah, it's the tip of the
It's the tip of the tepe.
It's the tip of the tepe.
All right, real quick before we take a break, Jonathan, thank you so much. $180. Wow, thanks, really appreciate that, bro. He says thoughts about Dr. Sweatman's work, his probability analysis that the iconography relates to astronomical correspondence seems pretty bulletproof. Also, thoughts on whether Gobekli Tepe, as wonderful a site as it is, won't be unique once more excavation is done.
No way.
I don't think it's unique. Yeah.
It won't be.
It's not going to be unique.
But it's still awesome.
Workmatic, thanks for the 50, mate. And yes, thanks for the kind words as well. You're a huge supporter of my channel. And Controlled Demolition, mate. Thank you also for the super chat.
Yeah. And Don't Trust My Camera, thank you, $5. He's asking about Firefox Pillars Aquarius. There was a nova in 9,000 to 12,000 years ago, closest and largest visible nebula to Earth. What do you think? Could it be associated with a nova that was visible in the sky?
That's cool. That's
very interesting idea.
The enclosures are explosions.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Sweatman's work. I mean, he mentioned it. I mentioned it briefly. I have his book here. I did talk to him in the early days of my channel. I'd love to do it again.
We did too.
He's going to be at the Cosmic Summit.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Hopefully we get to drink some beers together.
Yeah. I definitely am interested in talking to Martin some more.
I loved the way he approached his ideas. Yeah. I thought it was a very... I just thought it was a brilliant way to approach some kind of analysis like that, because it is... I mean, how do you... I just didn't expect it at all, how you would use probability calculations to figure out if your analysis of a few symbols is... right.
I know I couldn't quite get my head around that either.
But I thought it was great.
Yeah,
and I appreciate the work he's doing. I love it when people do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's right. I mean, I'm not going to say.
I'm not a statistician either, but my takeaway from it was that it seems to be incredibly unlikely that he's wrong.
That's basically what he was saying.
Don't know if that makes him right, but he's like, it seems very unlikely that he's wrong. And and so there's some sort of pseudo-ish breakdowns of his work of saying, you're just seeing patterns in anything and you can find patterns in anything. There's a lot more to it than that.
That's the classic SCRP argument for anything like that, though.
SCRP. Yeah.
Hey, we have a question for you.
Yeah, look, somebody's paying us to ask you a question, Ben. $72. Ben, what is your opinion on the similarities between the H-like symbol in Gobekli Tepe and those in South America?
Yeah, I noticed that as well. You see the H's on the blocks. We can keep going. I mean, it's just
we can dive into that after the break. I just want to get that out.
And that was NewPhaze too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys for supporting Snake Bros. They're definitely worthy of it. And I definitely noticed that. It is a strange correlation. I mean, you see connections with this site, and I mean, in the architecture itself, it's somewhat. Can't say it's the same as we see in Peru and Egypt and the typical sort of megalithic work. There are sites in Turkey that do match that sort of classic megalithic building architecture. There's another tepe that's we looked at a bunch of they're not all in this region. They're like 7-8 hours drive away from this region. There are sites in Turkey that match that, but here we're seeing stuff like the things that Graham Hancock pointed out. The iconography of the high relief animals is very similar to what we see on the Chulpa Towers at like in Silistani, and then it also at I forget the name of the other place specifically. It's up there in the highlands around Lake Titicaca that I've seen. I was looking at the photos on a Twitch stream the other day. It's eerily identical. And then you have the hands going around the waistline and the fingers. We see the same thing at the Moai on Easter Island.
Right. That connection really bothers me.
Yeah, me too. And the handbags. We were just sitting there staring at the vulture stone for quite a while with
Russ
with
figured out what those are.
Classic handbags. What
They're iPads with,
in them or something?
They're iPads with the handles on them, for kids.
With the handles on them.
They put the big plastic case with the big handle on it.
Yep. We saw somebody in the airport had
tablets,
big plastic case on their tablet, and I was like, that is what those handbags are. Looks just like it, yeah.
Interesting comment in my chat. It said Turkish H symbol is the same as the Aboriginal Australian symbol.
Oh yeah, I have seen that too. Yes,
yeah.
I haven't seen that, but that is interesting.
I thought Greg was posting some stuff like that in our secret chat.
Oh, Greg?
Yeah.
Oh, Greg.
Spencer, we're not stopping. We might take a quick break, but we're definitely not stopping. We've got at least another hour in us. I'm sure.
Let's take a break.
I want to get to Karahan Tepe and Sogmatar and everything else, but we'll take a break. There'll be a little musical interlude.
Yep.
I think,
and then
for
we'll
a couple
come back.
minutes, and then we'll be right back. So hang around, everyone.
Yeah. back. Yeah, we are back. Under the sands, folks. No one knows. So many wonders. Under the sands.
I've done it dry, I've done it wet, and the wet is much better.
Ever since I got my
Ben's got his
my soundboard plumbed into my mic, I can terrorize everyone I talk to now. Who's the band? You're looking at them. At least the two in the studio over here.
That's right.
Particular.
How's it going? $50dynasty.com. Free album.
Free album. Check it out.
And
Support them on Patreon as well.
We will be
Ben's
releasing
in our
vinyl.
other band that we formed with Yusuf.
Yeah, that's right.
Yusuf and the Pyramidians.
Yeah. We do jam.
We do.
It is
Yeah.
good. That's one of the honestly, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of my favorite parts. I don't get to jam with people. I used to play a bit more with people,
cool.
but I tell you what, traveling with you boys and playing music, it's such a privilege.
It's a lot of
And I'm
fun.
glad you guys let me tag along and not screw up too much of your music.
If you let us tag along to Giant Triangles, we'll let you tag along with the music. Yeah.
No contest. But yeah, it is a lot of fun, and getting Yusuf involved as well has been a lot of fun.
Yep.
So yeah, we're planning to really we're gonna take the band on the road.
That's right.
Good. Yeah, no, for sure. With our trips, man. And Yusuf gets involved, and he's a talented musician as well. He's fantastic.
And on the flute.
Yeah, so far
God.
we've played the most, in terms of ratio from practice to shows, we have done more shows versus practice than any band in the world.
That's right.
Because all they are is shows.
Right.
That's it.
Never
Yeah.
We don't
practice.
practice at all.
Not practice
We
at
don't
all.
practice. This is true. Yeah. Empire, we are. Thank you for the 50, man. And cheers. I'm glad you like the Vase videos, dude.
Yes,
and
we
we're
also-
working on scanning some more. I do have scans of other vases at the moment. And the trick is not the scanning so much as the analysis, which is what we're working on. And I hope to have news on that front in the near future.
Matthew, thank you. $5. Thank you so much. Texas neighbor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in Bee Caves.
Yeah.
Oops. All right,
Slick
just
String
doxed
Bender,
you,
we're
Matt.
looking for a
doxed
bass
himself.
player.
Yeah, he doxed himself.
We're looking for a bass player.
He asked if they need a drummer. Like we have too many of them.
And Matthew, $20. Thank you. He says $5 wasn't enough. I really respect and appreciate you three. I'm a master plumber, and I have been in the trade for almost 20 years. I have a shop, not no shop.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah. And McSpud, they're not going to copyright strike us for the music. That's Cole's music.
It's
he's not chasing people down.
Nope.
So
Nope.
it is good.
Yeah.
I've asked
Hey,
him.
also, if there's content creators out there that want some music,
Yeah.
have at it. It's
Have
on
at
the
it.
website.
Yeah.
Download it.
I've used some of Cole's music in some of my videos. I remember I did one. I forget the video what it was, but we put in one of the songs, and I couldn't tell you how many comments I got. Like, what was that
Yeah,
song?
Deus.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Deus, yeah, and fantastic music. It really is. It's a great album. You guys should check it out.
Thanks, man.
Highly recommended.
Just got the records.
Yeah, the records came in.
Yeah,
360
records
pounds of records.
Yeah. 360 pounds of vinyl.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's, they're the real nice. I'm not a big vinyl person, but we got
people are.
the good ones,
Yeah.
the heavy ones
Okay.
that are, and so it takes 2 records to put the full album on it.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah,
they're
so it's
top notch.
It's a cool double sleeve, like
Gatefold.
all the artwork.
Artwork's on there.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah,
All right.
one of the mods put $50 Dynasty link in the chat if you could. That'd be great.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you find their website, just post it up in the chat for me. Thank you.
All spelled out.
All spelled out. Yeah.
All right, where are we going? What do you want to do, Ben? What are you doing?
I figure, well, so we talked
Karahan?
briefly about Martin Sweatman. We're starting to get into it. I know we'd talked about Gobekli Tepe. We kind of covered a lot of it and just the context of how it was found and the work that's been done. Obviously, that's the most famous
Yeah.
and well-known site in the region. I'd love to maybe take a look at a couple of the other sites real quick. Controlled demolition, rock on, thank you. And let me maybe go back to the pictures.
Also relevant to this discussion is the rock walls at Karahan. Oh, that I don't know if
Yeah, let's go there now. Actually, I want to before we get to because I've got some similar. I found some stuff at Karahan, and I dug up some pictures from other places around the world, which is where I've found some similarities of some of the things to see there. So maybe we start with. I'm going to make us a little smaller for this.
Should I switch this to side by side?
I went with the what's it called, the whatever, it's a we're top and bottom but we're the same size in the corner. But so Karahan Tepe, it was a much later discovery than Gobekli Tepe. And I think, when did they start excavating? Like 2019, 2018?
I don't even know.
I don't remember. Did they tell us?
Super fresh.
Yeah, it is fresh.
So it's here's the site. It's technically closed. You can kind of work through the ministry to get access to it. Our group had access to it, and and you can see here just how small. I mean, it's not a lot that's been done here. It's on one of these hillsides, and again, we talked about it before with the midden mound, or the soil that's on these hills, which is different to the surrounding region. But this is pretty much, when you look at it, there's a couple more little excavations, but it's very much a work in progress.
Yes.
But remarkable for all of that. So it's kind of a privilege to get to visit it. It's not very far from Gobekli Tepe, in the same sort of general area. They're planning on creating a lot more tourism around it. I'm really excited to get to see a site like this early on in its to get to see a site this early on in its development. So every time we go back, hopefully every couple of years or whatever, we'll get to see it progressively become more and more uncovered. And as I said, the estimations from whatever scanning and work they've done here, they think it may be 5 times as large as Gobekli Tepe and at least 500 years older.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the burial and when they've, the same sort of dating methodologies.
Yeah, which is interesting. I think, and again, I haven't looked at Karahan, but I mean, are they doing the same methods? They're not dating the stone. They're not dating the megalithic work. So they can, but it's not very accurate. They can date when it was buried, essentially.
Then that's where they're dating it. It's funny. You go into the Gobekli Tepe visitor center, which I think UNESCO or the UN put a bunch of money into it, and it's actually quite a big light and show sound thing at Gobekli Tepe in the visitor center. And it's this big sort of just thundering noise and this wall-to-wall screens of this experience that you kind of go in there, and what were they calling it? Like 0 point of civilization, or 0 point of human culture
of civilization, world's first temple.
Well, this is 0 point minus 500.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Some of the papers we were reading, some of the more recent ones, there are actually archaeologists that are involved with Gobekli Tepe and all the teams that are working on this area, and they're complaining. They're actually complaining about the UNESCO marketing strategy for Gobekli Tepe. They're like they've embedded this story in it, which is basically from the early 1990s, early 2000s work that is now outdated. That is no longer what the archaeologists think about the sites. And it's sort of like it's getting built into the story of the site in people's minds,
right? And it's being proved and pretty much incorrect. Like they keep every turn of the archaeologist's spade, as Graham Hancock likes to say, right? It's like
every turn of the spade.
Things.
Yep.
How you going, Greg? Go fuck yourself, mate.
Greg. Greg is here.
Yeah, Greg is here.
Good to see you.
So I found this site's interesting. It's similar and different in respects that it has T-pillars and that type of thing, but there's a lot more bedrock work. It feels like it's been done here. These enclosures made from bedrock, and there's obviously this strange temple over to the left here. But this is in one area, and they've clearly shaped this. And I just looking at this, I don't know if it's a connection or it's anything like that. But I saw this shape here. You see what I'm talking about? And I thought Hotep. I was genuinely thinking, like, this looks like a Hotep. Like it's like you see this shape all over ancient Egypt, and this is the magnificent quartzite.
Yeah.
Not quartzite, but white calcite or alabaster Hotep. That's at Abu Ghraib, and it has this arrow, almost this arrow shaped thing, and it's just like I just was like, man, I'm crazy if this seems almost like a Hotep shape. Maybe it's had a point eroded off the end of it or damaged.
Pretty sure they're carving Texas into the ground there.
Texas?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Texas.
The hole right there.
Yeah, the hole is definitely Texas, bro, there.
Could be a hot tub. These could be cup holders. I don't know.
Okay, so the thing I thought, I mean, that's really cool. I totally see the similarity. But if you look at some of the carvings, which I've only seen pictures of, there's one in the visitor center of a face. But there's lots of pictures of the carvings and artifacts that they found, the totems.
Yep.
The faces on these, one of the similar things in the artwork is that the lines go up for the nose, and then they just have these beautiful curves that come around and down. And to show a face, it looks like a face. Like in the Gobekli Tepe style or in the whatever this style is, that's the nose portion, and it comes up and goes around for the eyes. That's what it looked like to me.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. It's just, it was literally like, what's this, ink blot painting represent?
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks like a hotep to me. But I liked a lot of this because it's this raw image of the site in its early stages of development. And one thing you'll notice, I want to point out in this picture that you'll see in other pictures. First of all, the background, you see the bare limestone hills that we talked about, no midden mounds, not a lot of dirt on top of them. And you can look on the horizon and see where there are midden mounds. Where, I bet if you dug at these places, you'd probably find something, which is, I think, what they're finding.
Yep.
But what you're seeing here, look at the patina on the rock. And we talked about this with the patina early on with the castle stones, but all of these T-pillars that are not fully excavated. But you see these sharp lines where it's grey and black and white on top, and then that dirt brown underneath. That's the original hillside level, right? Yeah. This has been excavated. The grass has grown a bit here. But this is the result
it was buried up to that line, yeah.
Yeah, buried. So this is that patina is the result of like 10 millennia, or plus of exposure to the earth. So you see what's sticking up. You see what portion of these stones was sticking up above the ground, and then you look around as you walk around this one excavation part, the one excavated part of Gobekli of Karahan, and you go out on this hillside in the valley that's next to it, and the next hill. And you just see the tops of all these little stones sticking up out the ground that and a lot of them actually, there's enough of a T-pillar to see. It is a T-pillar. And it kind of dawns on you over time that, holy crap, like there is just stone circles and this type of work just happened everywhere in this area. Like there was,
And that also is sort of like the ridiculousness of the idea that these things were, that everybody in this culture just decided, well, let's go bury it all.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking.
Karahan is huge, and then there's
mountains
mounds inside of mounds with circles in them. It's just amazing. Yeah.
And a beautiful place too. Just at again time of the year with the wildflowers hanging out everywhere. Everyone spread out. We had plenty of time on the site, and you just find these things poking up out of the ground.
See,
everywhere you go.
It's a perfect excuse to take a picture of flowers there.
There you go.
There's a giant T-pillar sticking out. It's like, no, I'm just looking at this T-pillar.
I'm looking at the T-pillar, not the flowers. I thought it was beautiful. But
it is.
Yeah. I mean, you see it here. Like these are the tops of T-pillars, all of these.
Yeah.
In the ground over here. There's a circle here. There's a circle here. This is probably part of another circle over here. There was circles to the left, circles to the right. I mean, you just... it was kind of astonishing.
You were there stuck in the middle again.
I was stuck in. Yep, exactly. There's George Howard on a T-pillar. You can actually see the corner of this T-pillar that's been tipped over.
And then again, look at the hills in the background, how bare they are. You can see little patches of grass, but they don't have this.
All that green is the mound.
Is the mound of Karahan. Yeah.
All this behind it because, as we went, and I think we went down and braved all the thistles to get down there. And, what did we find? T-pillars.
More T-pillars.
Like just broken T-pillars just shoved in the ground. Here's another one that's sticking slightly up. Thistles everywhere. I mean, you wear long pants if you go here at this time of year and you want to traipse out over here. But this stuff's everywhere. It's a massive site. Like, as I said, maybe what they say, 1,000 T-pillars or something like that. So it was pretty remarkable. And then they have the other thing that's interesting about Karahan. I mean, there's lots to talk about at Karahan, but the environment, as much as we look at it today, it's these barren hills of limestone. It was obviously very different because the sites, the burial, people sort of forget when you talk about, well, it's 12,000 years, this and that and the other thing. It's pretty much the burial of these sites is dated to the middle of the Younger Dryas, right? It's like in the Younger Dryas period. It's after the first part, but before the end of the end of the Younger Dryas is when they think, at least in at Gobekli Tepe, they were buried. So, we know that the global climate shifted all over the place. And what they found at this site, they found, leopard bones, crocodile bones, I think giraffe bones, bear bones.
Giraffes, yeah.
There's it would have been a much different environment going back to what we call classical kind of Neolithic times. So probably heavily wooded. There's a lot more rivers. If we get to actually talk about Sogmatar today, you see that. You see, like, as you're going around, you see tons of like these empty and dry riverbeds that would have originally been flowing with a lot more water. So it's a very different just environment than what it was back then, that probably was able to support larger populations of people, and support. I mean, they've got wood to burn, they've got creatures to hunt, they've got room for organized agriculture.
Yeah,
there's clearly room for civilization. I think that's probably what was going on back here.
Yeah, there's a comment here saying this is from Johnathan saying, surprised that the Turkish authorities aren't doing more to promote the real story of how many more sites there are. Well, I would just say, I mean, our guide was, he was part of the government. He was definitely promoting this. I mean, they're learning more all the time. And this, again, this narrative came from the German archaeological team. I mean, Klaus Schmidt really developed the narrative to begin with, and it was run with for a long time, and it is changing. But I think Turkey is really wanting to expand their tourist activity with these sites.
Yeah, they invited us. I mean, that was part of it. It's like they were looking for like what's a way to get out this message and talk about it
with the new media, right? That's what they wanted, was people who are doing it in the new way. Yeah. So
I was skeptical when I first got it. I mean, it's not like I get a lot of authoritative government sources contacting me, but the guy sends me an email, hey, I'm part of the Turkish government tourism ministry, and I'm like, really, are you? And I looked it up, and like, it turns out right. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. And great decision, because the trips were great, and seeing the region was great, and it's nice to have a contact there that you can. We can organize things. Like we did a lot of, unfortunately, video doesn't work so well over Zoom, so we're not going to run a lot of videos. I do share a lot of these videos on my Twitch streams.
Yeah.
If people are interested. But we were flying drones at a lot of these sites and getting a good look from above, which is very rare when it comes to historical ancient sites. Like it's hard, there's really not many places that let you do it.
And hopefully we'll get some scans. I also talked with Ramazan about this.
Yeah.
Getting some scans.
He
says he's going to work on it. Yeah, up close and personal. Yeah, we got to get in there and scan some freaking pillars.
That reminds me, I need to buy Yusuf an iPad.
Oh, yes.
He wants one. I got to bring
get on that.
Yeah. Don't forget that one, bro.
Just thank you for that one. Holy crap. Yeah.
Yeah. So another question is, do they don't have enough funds to dig up these hills? I mean, there's 80 sites this size. These are massive sites, and it takes time. It takes money. So I'm sure there's people. I'm sure the funding is coming, but you can only do so much at a time, I think.
Hey, you figure out. You get the iPad, and we'll also help you buy it. I'd love to give you that as a gift. Yeah.
Sure. We will. Yeah, we can talk about it. Either way, it's. Yeah, and I was going to say, too, this site's also being done by the Turkish authority. I think it's the Istanbul University. What are you guys laughing at? Something in the chat.
I'm laughing at a Dr. Dre song that's Forgot About Shock.
Forgot about Shock.
People forget.
Forgot About Shock.
Or what? That's Eminem. I don't even remember.
It is. Yeah. It's Dre.
I mean, so the way this kind of things work in at least in mainstream archaeology, you have the German Archaeological Institute that's putting the money and time into excavating Gobekli Tepe and building it. Then UNESCO or the UN put money into promoting it. This site's being done by the Turkish university. I think it's the Istanbul University.
Yep.
And I mean, it's slow progress too. It's not like you can just get in there with an excavator and go to town. Like, real archaeology in these digs are like, you coordinate off, you make a coordinate system, you record exactly where you find stuff, you're sifting sand and dirt, trying to find specific artifacts. It's not a fast process. So, it's going to take the next couple of decades to fully uncover a lot of these sites. But this is super interesting to me. This one area, like this, it has the face in it. It's a weird angle on it. Let me see if I've got a better shot.
Yeah, the face is right. It's at the lower left of the.
There it is. There. Yeah. As the face is carved into it, it has this hole through it. I mean, there's some really good work done by Andrew Collins and Hugh Newman, showing that there's this has alignment properties on. I think it's either a equinox or a solstice, where the sunlight shines through a hole in the wall and hits the face.
Yep.
That was Hugh talking about that for sure. Yeah.
People people think about this, or at least I've heard it described as a fertility temple. These being like phallic, although this one's a bit strange.
That one's the one that's supposed to be the guy carrying the. He's carrying a what is it? One of the cats. He's carrying a leopard or something on his back, and that one also may be the only one that isn't cut out of the bedrock. It may be stood up in there.
That one definitely that one's definitely socketed in. The flat one.
The flat one.
Yeah.
Is the guy carrying something is socketed in. The rest of them are rock cut.
Yeah,
and then
it's just
we were told we were told when we were there that all of them had heads separate
on top of them.
On top, so they look phallic, but they're also supposed to have heads on the top. So
right,
interesting.
It is interesting, and it did remind me of a certain temple, a certain site in Peru. That's a legitimate phallic site. I don't know if you've seen any of these pictures, but it's it's just
look at that, yeah.
That's a shroom garden. Come on.
It's a shroom garden. It's a hell of a shroom garden. Yep, it's all over the place. There's Brian Forrester and Jimmy. This is up around Lake Titicaca. It's near Puno, or it might be even in Puno. It's one of these sites, but it kind of to a small extent kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that area, because if you look at it in the context of the overall site, right, you've got top left. This is where that sunken area was with the bedrock cut features in the face.
Yeah.
And then you have this main giant enclosure that they've excavated. And you see a similar thing to Gobekli Tepe, where it's the ground's been ground down, it's flat. There's bedrock features, stuff carved from the bedrock. There's leopard motifs all over the place here. There's leopards everywhere versus, Gobekli Tepe is more oriented around the fox.
Yeah.
It's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is just so cool to me, the way they have their little icons.
It's the school of the fox, school of the cat.
School of the cat.
Yeah.
I went to leopard.
Yeah.
Now we're into leopard time. Yeah. And what's interesting here, I think, really, is to me that it took me a minute to recognize it, but these piles of what just look like rubble, they're T-pillars.
Yep.
These are fallen, huge T-pillars that have fallen and broken up and just crumbled. I mean, I don't know. It seems odd to think that they break like that if they just fell over. Something else has happened here to these things. And you can see there's broken features all around the place. And there's other T-pillars that they found broken as well. But these look almost eroded.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They look like they maybe fell over and shattered and then were subjected to a long time. Laid there and just got eroded. Yeah.
Yeah. And then were buried 10 to 11, 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's how long are we talking for this enclosure?
Now this site
these
for sure.
These T-pillars are massive, and there's one that's still was in the process of being cut out of the side of the hill. If you're looking at this picture going around this hillside, there's a big pillar that they were still cutting out of the hill that would probably have been one of these. Yeah, there it is. Ben's got a picture.
And again, this site is covered in these lithics.
Yeah.
These little, very crudely made projectile points out of flint.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, they're doing the archaeological dating in the same method. I mean, this is obviously those people were they were living here, and maybe those people are the source of the midden.
Yep.
That they may have occupied these. They may have occupied all 80 of these sites that are all over the Taj Tepeler, the stone hills out there.
Taj Tepeler, that's what they're called. That's cool.
Yeah.
The stone hills.
Taj Tepeler.
Yeah, and this was quite astonishing to see this in its place. You can see how they're trying to knock it out and match what would probably be a natural crack that might crack this thing away from the bedrock. But estimates as to the mass of this thing, you're talking 20, 30 tons.
Yeah, thing is,
it's a big piece of stone,
really big. Yeah,
it no joke. And you'd have to move it around this hillside, like where these people are standing up on the back. Like that's kind of the top of the hill, and it goes further over and then down to that main site. But you have, T-pillars all over the place here.
Right. But that looks like it would have been one of the big ones in that main rock cut enclosure. It's the same size. A lot of the other ones in the circles around the area are much smaller. This is a huge one.
Yeah.
So again, it gives you the concept of unfinished work. Like they didn't complete whatever they were doing, right?
The other thought I had about that pillar is that they might have sliced it long ways and made 2 pillars out of it.
They could have, they could.
No, they could have done that too.
That would have been a fun job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now cut it in half long ways, Jounce.
With your piece of flint.
Yeah, with your flint chisel.
With your flint chisel, right?
I still have to try. I got to do science. I mean, we have the same, very similar rocks here. I was gonna.
You gotta make a flint chisel.
I got
a T-pillar out of the.
I got piles of flint nodules out there that I've collected. I'm gonna cut a piece of limestone in half and time lapse that.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see that. That would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, I got to do it.
Yeah, so fantastic site. I got to see it a couple times, thankfully. I think we even came here on one of our days off.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it's just I'm interested to see what is uncovered over time, and then, as you said, like 40 to 80 more sites just like these, all around this region. It kind of reminds me of what we're finding in the Amazon now, right? With the city-sized, the remnants of what seem to be cities and these massive earthworks and geometric objects that are being uncovered thanks to like deforestation in the Amazon. And it just, to me, it seems to represent another hidden chapter of human history, human civilization. Because I just, end of the day, I don't think you have any other explanation for this stuff other than civilization, one form or the other.
Right.
And I don't know when it started. And I do like the idea that it may have been inhabited by hunter-gatherers later on, and that might explain some of the things we're finding there.
That is what it seems like. And this is just like you're saying. It seems to be a similar story. You have these very old structures built by seemingly a completely unknown people, and then they were found and inhabited because they're useful.
Yep.
They're convenient. Now, these are less convenient. A lot of these are far away from water sources. Even when the place was much more fertile, had trees and water, it's still at the top of the hill instead of down by the river. But, it's...
Yeah. Yeah, the one other thing, you have a similarity to Gobekli Tepe and the other places with these hands that seem to wrap around it. All these ones have like 8 or 10 fingers on the hands, the way that they're carved. But some of these T-pillars, at least a couple that we saw, have the same sort of hand.
Yep, that one has way too many fingers too.
Too many fingers. Yeah, it's a number of fingers.
Yes.
And the other thing that I wanted to comment on here, which again, it's just this random similarity, and it may not mean anything, but where was it? It's one of these earlier. It was these channels that were cut in the block. I mean, I don't know if it was for. I can't imagine it's for drainage. But it's these things. We saw a lot of these, right? These channels that were cut.
Yes.
See these?
Yes.
Like almost like it's liquid, was used for a liquid of some sort, or you're doing something here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there were lots of those.
Lots of these. Yeah.
And I have
there's
to get
a
you
big
guys
one. There's a big one going into the enclosure there at the rock cut enclosure with all the little
The pillars.
phallic pillars.
Yep.
Yeah, there is.
The peni.
I do have a picture of it. Maybe it's over here on the left, on the right. Sorry, but yeah, it's funny that it actually looks a lot like stuff you see in Peru. See this? You see similar. This is Peru. These are in the hills around Cusco.
Oh yeah, look at
and
that.
And Kenko. You just have these weird channels that are cut into the stone. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But you see, maybe this is a decorative thing, or it's a worm, a sperm, or who knows what. But you see this, this sort of stuff that happens all over the place in the typical Hanan Pacha, the really old style of architecture.
Yep.
That you see at places like Kenko and whatnot in Peru.
Look at that.
I just had a like, man, this is very similar to what you see at Kenko and in the hills around Cusco, which is all part of Sacsayhuaman originally. Like that was all one giant site. And then they just started tearing it down for construction later on. But
real quick, Viking Gaming, thanks, buddy. Appreciate the donation. And we just shouted you out on Randall's stream too. You're getting a shout out here. And Rex, $10. He says it was the what is it called? The thing with the pillars is Fertile Farmer's Phallus Palace. That's what he calls it.
Fertile Farmer's Phallus Palace.
Hey, is that really alliteration? Nice. There's P's.
The wrong letters.
Little swimmer. Yeah. Yeah, the channels for metallurgy, I don't know. I don't suspect so. I don't know though.
People are asking that in ours
just,
too. Yeah. Metallurgy.
I'm gonna try to do this. Let's see. Join this.
So there's a couple other sites we could hit on here that I wanted to really talk about that I found interesting. One was Sogmatar, And I do want to throw a shout out here to CF Apps. I meant to.
Yes.
My buddy Chuck, who I used to talk with all the time, unfortunately and sadly passed away a little while ago now. I used to spend a lot of time talking with Chuck, and he was one of the guys who gave me one of my first shout outs, the camera, to get the channel started. So, and he did a lot of videos about Sogmatar. Hello.
What are you doing there, Kyle?
This is cool.
We've got car cam.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna share. Keep going.
But and he was fascinated with Sogmatar, and he did a lot of exceptional work. His channel's still out there. I really enjoyed speaking with Chuck. It was very sad about what happened, but going to Sogmatar and actually seeing it for the first time, and I know he never had the chance to go there. I was thinking about him a lot when I was there, but because it's an absolutely fascinating site. Like it's a central man-made massive pyramid-like structure. I don't know what else to call it, like a citadel / pyramid. So it's a giant man-made thing that's in the middle of a couple of what would have been flowing water or tributaries or small rivers. And then dotted around it, you have all of these temples that, Russ, you said maybe even 6,000 years old or older that are dedicated to the planets. It's a really mysterious site. There's a modern-day village that's right there, and you go and visit it. But it was a really interesting site to hit, and it's one of those things that's never really been excavated.
You can see where the ancient river was. It came and it splits around this. It actually completely encloses this little island, which would have been in the river. And the mound is basically whatever the citadel, the structure, the pyramid, whatever they built there has completely covered that island. And they've built on it so many times, or there's so many layers that it's just this enormous mound, but it's entirely man-made. Like they've been doing archaeology and they're finding layers of structure all the way at the bottom of it. So
yeah, this is it here.
Yeah, that's it.
This is the man-made mound in the middle, and the water would have passed to either side of it, and then dotted on these hilltops.
Yep,
are all these temples.
Yes,
and there's Christian climbing on shit again.
There's Christian. Yep,
classic.
Going wherever he wants. But yeah, and then you have like these structures that were up on these limestone hills dotted around it and within a line of sight that are dedicated to the planets. It's quite an interesting site. And there's a lot that has been said about this. There's alignments with other sites. Chuck's research into it is really fascinating.
I think that was Kevin
we climbed up on top of the mound in the middle, and it's
there's block walls
man-made.
sticking out of the side. Yeah, some beautiful stonework there.
Yeah.
And that's very similar to the stonework we see on the temples on the hills. It looks just like it in style.
And there's George Howard lost on how to get down.
Yeah, how do we get down? Yep.
I do have a video. I was videoing him at the time, and we were almost half expecting him to.
It is steep.
It is steep.
Tumble.
It's steeper than it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was stumbling around looking for a way down.
He's right over top of the tiny bit of archaeology that's being done. You can see that.
Yeah, this is this extent,
right?
The archaeology, but you can see where they've hit stonework and they've hit.
Right.
Yeah, those old crude, rudimentary rock walls inside that thing. Yeah.
They've been doing some digging. But yeah, we hit a few more places than this. There's a whole bunch of some, you kind of need to do it in the way you guys have done it with 6 hours of podcasting to kind of cover a lot of the details of what we touched on. But my other favorite site, I'd have to say from this would be Mount Nemrut.
Oh yeah,
Nemrut was something else. I mean, so this is a quite a famous site. I mean, and as you drive up to it, the difference was this is not down in the valleys and the regular area. This is up in the mountains. And I think the site itself is something like 7,000 feet, if I recall correctly. And as you can see, there's snow dotted around up here. So we couldn't get there the first week because of snow, and we managed to get up there the second week.
Peter, thank you, buddy. 108.
Thanks so much,
really
bro.
appreciate it,
you guys
man.
go.
Yeah,
really appreciate it,
guys. That's awesome. It has one of the largest.
It is the largest tumulus.
The largest tumulus mound. Yeah, I was going to say it's the largest tumulus mound in the world, which is these limestone chips.
Yeah,
and you got to haul your ass up this staircase and climb up. I think it's 400 feet to get up there.
Yeah,
at 7,000 feet. So it's a bit of fun.
And you get a snowball fight on the way up.
You can get a snowball fight.
Yep.
I literally have that video. I Alyssa throwing a snowball at you, I think, Cole.
She missed.
Recall.
I got her though.
Peter Shell with the 108 as well, dude. Thank you so much.
Hey, Peter, thanks. Donated to
Peter,
both
thanks
of us.
so much.
Really
You're being very
appreciate
generous
that.
to both of us. Thanks, man. Very, very kind.
Should have given Ben
appreciate it.
72. Give us.
Well, okay. I don't know. So processional numerology, Russ. It doesn't matter. I think. I don't know. You. I don't know. I don't have an attaboy, so I can't.
I don't either. I don't have any. Kyle has all the attaboys.
I did hear that part.
Yeah.
Kyle has all the attaboys. All right. He's got 2.5. But yeah, this is so. But the thing to notice about this that I found astonishing is it's basically the highest peak in the area. Was it not? It was more or less
the highest one.
The highest peak. So this mound of chips, of limestone chips, was put here.
Yeah. That thing is
insane.
constructed. It's
been
crazy.
constructed.
I mean, it looks like it was put there by a lift, like by an auger.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called,
Just-
like a
right.
material
Just spewing
lift.
it. It's like a mine. It's like a
Big old
yeah,
mining
it's like
thing
going
up
up
there.
and then it's just dumping off the top and leaves.
It's like a tailings pile.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah,
looks like.
from a giant auger that's just from the sky. It's
Yeah.
just dumping this stuff on. It does look like that.
An auger
And-
from the sky. Yeah.
Auger from the sky. And it's got, megalithic work, stonework around it. You have this incredible carvings of these. I keep forgetting the name of the civilization or the kings that created the this stuff, the kings and the Phrygian caps and the queens and the eagles, all made from Tura limestone, which is like a hard, fine form of limestone that's similar to the casing stones on the pyramid that surrounds it. So you have this incredible megalithic and this artwork that's around 2,000 years old at least, they think,
Yep.
of this civilization that's pretty well related to where they are. It's spectacular, but it's built around this massive tumulus mound of chips. It's the biggest one in the world on the tallest peak in the region that was all carried up here, that they have scanned, and they know that there's at least a two or three like chambered structure beneath it.
Yep.
And they did some excavations in the 1970s up here, and
It's too dangerous.
as you can imagine, this is a dangerous thing to try and excavate. And a couple of people died, and the Turkish government said, "No more excavating."
Right. It is the most genius hiding method I've ever seen. A giant pile
It's
of
good.
gravel.
Because this is also for people that have maybe watched the Sphinx video that I produced recently, talking about the Hall of Records and Edgar Cayce,
Yep.
the American prophet, who, a lot of people made a lot of money based on his predictions and prophecies on the stock market. Made a lot of people a lot of money, but he also had these sayings and visions and prophecies about the Hall of Records, the Atlantean civilization, or whatever advanced civilization you want to call it. And he talked about 3 locations around the world, one of them being, underneath the Sphinx. But this was another one. Like, this was another area that they had talked about as potentially being a location for a Hall of Records.
Right.
And we can't get in there, or we're not getting in there. And it just makes you wonder, was there something here? Did these people recognize what had been done here? Maybe there were legends they heard about. Is that what caused them to build this, go to the incredible amount of effort it would have taken to create these thrones and this beautiful artwork and these dedications to it? I don't know. It's hard to, again, you're looking at, do we correlate the tumulus mound and what's beneath it to the
statues
and everything that's on the outside?
The statues and the tumulus mound being the same, and had the chambers that are in it, the known chambers. They've done some. They, like you said, a while back, they did GPR scanning. They know there's at least 3 open chambers in there. The standard story is that they think this is the tomb of the Antiochus, whatever his name is, the king. So that's the standard story. So we've all heard this story. Or we can all pretend that we've heard this story. It's a standard story. Maybe not everybody's heard this story, but I like the story better that it's also, I should say, just a possibility that this mound was already there, and the reason the thrones and the statues and everything were built there by this king is because he knew about these legends and he wanted to associate himself with this ancient place, which is something we see elsewhere. So,
can I share real quick? I want to try something here.
Yeah.
Also,
please
Peter
do.
Curtis, don't have a heart attack, bro.
See if I can.
Just letting you know.
Yeah, it should have been the last indie movie. Indian short round, search for the Hall of Records. Yeah, they'll probably be better than what's coming out now. I don't. From what I've heard, that it's like there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. Damn it. Okay. It ends at the Last Crusade.
You didn't like Crystal Skull? I love that one. I have to admit, I like that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's not as popular with many people, but I was like, this is cool. It's got aliens. I mean,
the next one's going to be. Oh, I remember you with your Swedish selfie stick out there, swinging your phone out trying to get this scan. But dude, that worked out.
I couldn't get the back, but
that's fantastic, though.
That is great.
They wouldn't let us step over the rope.
I know.
Yeah. Ramazan tried, and the guys are like, "Nope, you can't do it." I'm like, "Literally, can we just step over this rope and scan the back of these things?" And they wouldn't let us scan it. But Kyle, you did a great job there. Yeah.
Good job.
I have an iPad, and Kyle's smarter than me. He has the scanning app on a phone, which you can attach to the end of a long pole and stick it out there.
Yeah, he's using a narcissistic.
yeah, exactly. Well, you just have to deal with. I mean, that's normal now, right? It's normal to see selfie sticks.
Right. These carvings are just beautiful. I just love
fantastic
them.
for a.
Yeah, and I'm wondering
a tool for scanning. Look at that.
These little notches in there, if they had some gilding or.
I saw tube drills and notches that were in the statues. Whether it was something that was done to attach something to it, or potentially modern, I don't know, to move them. I don't know, because there are tube drills on some of these statues. There are like cylindrical holes in them. Selfie stick to scan the backs. We were literally using a selfie stick to get this scan.
Yeah,
the rope is like 6-10 feet in front of it.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't let us cross the rope like that. We were literally like there was maybe 2 or 3 other people there, and those guys are watching us.
So I know we're on. I just wanted to show this real quick. This is the reason why I actually connected my phone to this chat. But this is the that rock cut chamber,
and there's the channel.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that is
a good scan.
This is what's beautiful about these scans. I mean, look at the shape of this thing.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, there's the channel.
Yeah, there's a channel here, and then they run around the side as well.
Oh, I'm sharing myself.
Kyle's screwing it up.
Go here.
There we go.
It's sharing the whole screen, and then it puts this thing on.
Hi. It's down here. Okay, never mind.
So yeah, I mean, it looks like a tadpole, or maybe a sperm. Which how would they know?
It does, yeah.
It does.
They know what that looks like.
And that's exactly what the carving in some people in the chat here was saying. Like, there's a little swimmer over there in Peru too. That's what we saw it look like. But yeah.
Did you scan Did you scan the entire mound of gravel at Nemrut?
No, but I did scan a. Let's see.
I got a few scans too. I typically pull them off and put them on the computer, but I should. I could.
Yeah, I should have done that with these.
That's fine.
This is one of the mounds with the T-pillars sticking out.
Yeah. I remember you marching around taking this time to scan this.
This was hard.
Yeah.
But you can clearly see the circle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm moving too fast for the...
No, it actually works pretty well.
But you can see these, the circles of, or at least the curved...
the landscape, the curvature of the stone circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a circle within a circle there, it looks like.
Yep. And then it looks like the central pillars are right there.
Yep, there's the 2 central ones. Yep.
So, yeah, it's...
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Pretty cool.
Kyle's using
doing
the
actual work, Kyle.
iPhone Pro 13 Pro. That's 12, starting from 12 Pro.
Wow.
Now kick me out of the meeting so I don't have to try to stop this screen share. Just kidding. Let's see how
I was clicking.
People are asking what it's the 12 Pro and later phones that have the LiDAR, right?
Yeah, and I think it's the iPad 11.
Yeah, iPad 11
and
Pro.
Later, I'm assuming
it's the Pro ones that have it. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. I mean, so Turkey, interesting. Like, it's just one of those places I think we're going to uncover more in the next couple decades.
For sure.
I hope. Yeah, it just seems like a whole hidden chapter of human history to me.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to? You guys want?
Where are we going next?
We're going to
Egypt.
Egypt.
Next. God damn it! Well, we know where we're going next.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, next is the Cosmic Summit.
That's right. Yeah.
So we are in. Was that 3 weeks away? We're all off to the Cosmic Summit.
Is it 3 weeks? Damn.
It's about 3 weeks, bro. You better have some. Are you doing slides or are you doing a picture show?
Well, I just did it again at Scablands, but I need to send them the actual slideshow.
The Scablands presentation was fantastic. Dude.
Yeah,
it was.
I have
really
I have pared it down, trimmed it up.
Good.
Got it nice and thin and good, ready for the. But I have to actually put it together as a slideshow.
Slideshow.
Yeah.
I know. It's nice to be able to zoom in and all that stuff, and it's tough to do that in slides.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Russ and I are speaking at the Cosmic Summit, which is coming up. But after that, I mean, we'll probably do Montana trip as well. But
yep, we're doing
the
Montana.
big thing that I wanted to tell people about on this, while everyone's here in the chat, was that we are closing in on finalizing our Egypt trip.
That's right.
So let me do a bit of this while we're here. Where are we? Screen one, share, escape. So we've been talking about this. We're not doing a trip this year, but next year.
And thanks to our buddy Troy for working on these.
Big shout out. He's in the chats.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be going back to Egypt, and we're looking at putting on an extension to Lebanon and Baalbek.
That's right.
Yeah. So February next year, we got the dates are all nailed down. The extension to Baalbek will be beyond the 22nd, so it's like a 16-day tour in Egypt, and we're looking at something like 4 nights in 4 or 5 nights
5
in.
Days, he said at least 5 days we need.
5 days in Lebanon. So Byblos, Baalbek, the museum there. There's a couple other little things to see, but Baalbek's obviously the main attraction. And yeah, it'll be us and Yusuf, and looking at this for February. So I just want to let people know that's coming soon. We're still trying to nail down the last couple of details, but if you're interested in going to Egypt, this will be a fun trip.
My birthday is going to be on that trip.
Yeah,
February 12th.
Yours?
February 12th.
Yeah.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, so
show them the real poster.
Show them the real poster.
I'm just kidding.
No, I will.
I put this picture in there.
We've gone that
it's
far.
like, well, maybe we should be a little bit more serious.
Here's Kyle's first attempt at the poster. I do like this one. It's just,
that's the legit poster. That is that's the official legit. We're pimping in Egypt poster.
Pimping in Egypt poster. I should explain for people that weren't there. We went to like a store that had all sorts of gear in it, and we all decided to hit the sunglass rack, and
we just got the most ridiculous ones we could find.
The most stupid sunglasses we could find. And
this is the band, folks.
Yeah, this is the band. Yusuf and the
This
Pyramid
is the band
on that photo.
The Pyramid Idiots, exactly. Yeah.
In the other one, like me and Russ are the only ones that they're looking Egyptian.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Troy's is much more professional.
Yes,
and
it's way better.
Yes.
Yeah, I do like that. It is funny. Yusuf is a god. Yeah, Yusuf's the main man. I really enjoyed it. I got the last trip was so good. Everybody kind of had. It's one of those bucket list items, and it's people had I think the experience with. I find that if you are listening to you guys or you're on my channel and you're deep down the rabbit hole on some of these topics, and then coming to Egypt and you find other people that are like that.
Yep.
It's a self-selecting group of really interesting people. It's always been the case with all of these things that we've done, and the people that come make the trip, and it's fantastic. So everybody out there that has been on these trips, thanks for coming. And
definitely,
I've grown to really enjoy showing or watching people make connections with other people.
Yeah.
On these trips, because it's one of those things. It's like I hear it all the time. People say that, I try to talk to my family or my friends about these topics because I'm interested in them, and they don't care or they don't want to hear about it. But just imagine, you go to a place or on one of these trips, and it's like every person's going to be interested in talking about it, and we'll go down the rabbit hole with you, and we'll explore ideas and stuff like that. So, yeah, we have people from trips from 3-4 years ago that are still flying across the planet to visit each other, and Telegram groups that are still going. So it'll be a fun trip.
Yep.
Good itinerary. We have like 6-7 special permissions. It's going to be epic. We're going back out to. I'm really interested in showing. You guys haven't been there. I've only been there once, but Abu Rawash.
Abu Rawash, yes.
Going out to the pyramid in the north.
Yep.
What about Abu Dry? Gotta do that one afterwards, right?
Abu Radrai, that comes next. That's the year after.
Boo.
Decky,
Really
Rahul,
wanted to go
thank you guys.
Yeah, we're
Self-selected, thank you.
visiting pyramids by day, destroying the hotels by night. That's pretty much what happens.
Pretty much what happens. Yeah. Yeah. The hotels are nice. It's a 5-star experience as well. So it's
is.
fun. Anyway, I just wanted to let people know that's coming soon.
It is.
So stay tuned for news about that. Hopefully in the next week or two. We're just waiting on the last few details for Lebanon. So
Yeah. Once we get the Lebanon details, we'll be releasing it for people to start buying the tickets, getting the plans going.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to Baalbek. Like that's
I know.
God.
Dude, Baalbek's and the quarry. We'll definitely be hitting the quarry and the whole, so.
Oh, Greg's already been there.
Yeah.
Oh, Greg has. Yeah, old
Greg
Greg
went. Yeah.
Old Greg went there from Turkey. Yeah.
Yep.
Good on you, Greg.
Yep. He
had some
scouted it out
fantastic
for us.
pictures.
He did get some amazing photographs.
Yeah, and then we were like, all right, we got to do
Yeah,
this.
we got to go.
Yeah.
All right, Ben.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, buddy.
For
Enjoy
coming on
it
the
all the
show. We
time.
always the shows we do with you are always amazing. Tell people in our audience, if they don't know, which they should, where they can find you.
It's unchartedx.com or youtube.com/c/unchartedx is all my work, and you can find links to all the socials and all the rest there. And you should do the same. If people aren't following Brothers of the Serpent, go and subscribe to them on the YouTube. They're getting into video. All their stuff was audio, but I've been working my magic on them for a couple of years now, and they're starting to do video. And I know there are produced YouTube videos in your future.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
They're coming.
Yes. So brothersoftheserpent.com is the website, and I'm still working on the new website, so we're going to get a much more professional website soon. And then, yes, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Brothers of the Serpent is our channel.
Yep. Their podcast is excellent too. If you guys listen to podcasts, Spotify, whatever, all of the podcast sources. That's it's a great
Anywhere
podcast.
podcasts can be found. We do long form book reports where we take books about these ancient mysteries and we just go through it page by page. Where I've gone through and kind of abridged it and selected certain things, and sometimes we do 11 episodes on a single book, doing discussions and everything. So if you like that kind of long form discussion in audio, check it out. We've done lots of really great books in the feed there.
Yeah, and they do one a week. It's amazing.
Dynasty.com.
They're regular. They do it one a week, and
Once a week.
Once a week.
I have a podcast. It's been about 8 months since I've released
I know.
it, so.
I keep refreshing my UnchartedX podcast feed, and it keeps not giving me anything.
It's coming next couple days.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
I'm going to throw a party when I get a new UnchartedX podcast episode. So rare.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Great show.
Enjoyed it. Thanks.
Chats.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
trolls.
You. Yeah, thanks
Chat.
for the trolls in our chats. Yes.
Yeah, and thank you guys so much for the support. I'd say that to both
all the
Snake
donators
support and my support. Thank you guys
Yes.
so much.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Humbling
I do
experience,
stream. I'll just say this too. I do stream on Twitch a couple times a week. So I'm sorry if I didn't keep up with the chat in here. But if you want to chat to me and ask questions, please do catch me on Twitch. You can find all the details for that on my website.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. But yeah, sorry I couldn't keep up with everything happening in the chat.
We also have Discord channels. Just want to throw this out there. We have a Discord. Ben has one. They're both very active. And Ben always posts, like when he's going to stream, he posts notifications in his Discord for the streams coming up. So that's a good way to get notifications for that. And then our Discord is huge. There's people constantly talking. So any subject you want to talk on, ancient mysteries or anything else, you can come into the Discord. So look it up. There's a link to join our Discord on our website. All right.
Sounds like a cool place. I think I might check it out.
Yeah.
Epic.
And what do we got?
All right.
Jonathan, let me remember. Jonathan, Peter, and Troy are our executive producers for this episode. Thank you guys so much for the donations.
And NewPhaze.
And NewPhaze, yeah. And Troy, once again, thanhanks for the artwork for the Egypt trip.
Yep.
Yes.
Shake Aaron, thank you for the 20, the last minute there. Dub Selector, thank you as well. And everybody else that did the super chats and everything else in the chat. I'm just sorry if I missed you, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Cheers. Now I have to figure out how to stop this.
How do we
You hit stop streaming in OBS, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'll be streaming.
We love you
live
guys.
Next. Yeah. That's your cue.
There we go.
Always have.
I
Al
stopped.
fucked it up, yeah. You didn't do it. It's all right.
Always have.
I said we love
Always
you.
will.
All right.
Good
Too
night,
late.
Adamu.
Later.
Get back to work.
Get back to work.